All right. So we're going to look at section 2.2 and 2.3 today. So,
Thanks for posting that.
oh, no problem. I totally forgot to hit publish.
I was like, wait, where's the stuff?
You know how it's like it's save and publish or save, and I literally hit save and not save and publish. So yeah, unless somebody tells me, I don't realize I didn't do it. So all right. So there is two types of data that can be collected. And yes, they use both cues just to confuse you. The first one is qualitative data. So qualitative data is qualities. Okay. So the color shirt you're wearing, the eye color, the hair color, anything like that. Your phone number, your social security number, those are qualities. Okay. So those are it's qualitative data. This type of data, you can't do any actual math on. Okay, you can count them, you might be able to put them in order, but you really can't do any calculations on them. So, and that's really the big difference between qualitative and quantitative is, can you actually do some calculations? So while a social security number or a phone number is a number, or your address is a number, you can't like add them together and get something that would make sense. Okay, like I can't add everybody's phone number in here and get something that actually would make sense for a phone number. So that's why those are qualitative data. I'll explain what nominal and ordinal is in a little bit. Quantitative data are quantities. So these you actually can do some calculations on. Okay, so quantitative data is quantities. So height, weight, time. Those are all quantities. Okay. Does everybody understand the difference between those two? Okay. So give me a data thing, some piece of data about you. Okay. Is that is it a quality or a quantity? Well, think about it. Like, so a qualitative is something that you can't do some calculations on. Could I take your age and subtract it from his age and get something that means something?
Yeah.
Then it is a quantity. Okay, it is it's qualitative or it's quantitative because it is it's a quantity. Okay, so it is because I can do math on it. It is quantitative.
So quantitative, you can do math.
Right, I can do some kind of calculation on it. Addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, depending on which type it is, depends on which ones I can do. But I can do some math on it. Okay, your phone number, it's still a number, but subtracting them wouldn't matter, wouldn't mean anything. So that is a quality. So that is quantitative or qualitative. Okay, because I can't do calculations with it. So you also things that can fall into this category are also colors or sizes, things like that. That would that are a piece of you, but not necessarily something that's even a number. All right, like your name is quantitative or qualitative data. Okay, because it's a piece of data, but I can't do any calculations on it because it's a name, not a number to begin with. Okay, that's the difference between them. Can I do a calculation on it? And that's really the biggest difference between qualitative and quantitative. Okay. So yeah, go ahead.
I don't understand like the definition to it. Like qualitative.
Don't read the definition because I haven't talked to what the other pieces are. I haven't told you what nominal, ordinal, and those stuff are yet. We haven't gotten to that point yet. So so whenever you're trying to break down data, the first thing you want to break it down into is it qualitative or quantitative? Okay, that's the first thing you want to break it down into. Is it qualitative or is it quantitative? All right. Step 2 is to actually break it down further than that. But that's the first step you want to do. So let's look at one. The rankings of 3 books on the New York Times bestseller list. Qualitative or quantitative? Why is it qualitative?
Yeah. Measure that.
Well,
Oh, no, yeah.
it's not that you can't measure it. It is a measurement. It's a piece, but subtracting the ratings of 2 books doesn't give you anything, right? So that's why it's qualitative.
So I got that right?
Yeah. A list of codes you must dial before the phone number. So Connecticut's 860 or 203 or 417 now. And I think there's another one in there.
Really?
Are they qualitative or quantitative? Why? Correct. I'm just pulling them from the book, so I got to copy and paste. 48. The heights of 48 randomly selected females. Why?
You could measure on it.
It's not the measurement. I can subtract them. I can divide them to tell you like you're twice as tall as somebody else, or you're 5 inches taller than somebody else. I can do that. That's why it's quantitative. Okay. Better understanding now? All right. That's the first thing. Next, we talked about this briefly before. We talked about discrete and continuous numbers. So remember I said discrete was things that have breaks. Okay. So the number of pages in a book, those are discrete. Okay, because it goes from 1 to 2 to 3. There's nothing between 1 and 2. So those are discrete values. And then we have continuous values, which are ones that there is stuff between 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s and stuff like that. So height would be continuous. Now, remember I said qualitative and quantitative. Quantitative you can do math on, qualitative you cannot. If it's qualitative, it can't be discrete or continuous because I can't do anything with it anyway. So data that is qualitative is neither. It cannot be continuous or discrete. It is always neither. If it is quantitative, so qualitative data can't be discrete or continuous because it could be a name. A name can't be discrete or continuous because discrete means that it has like specific values that go on. These are numerical values. So for it to be discrete or continuous, it has to be quantitative because we have to be able to do math. Okay, does that make sense? So you decide if it's qualitative or quantitative. Got that piece of data down. Then we can determine if it's discrete or continuous or neither if it's qualitative. Okay. So let's go back and look at these. The rankings of 3 books on the New York Times bestseller list. We said they were qualitative, right? Is it discrete, continuous, or neither? They are neither because they are qualitative. Okay. The list of country codes or county codes in your phone number. Neither because they are qualitative. Heights of 48 randomly selected females. That is continuous because heights are continuous. You do not jump from 48 inches to 49 inches. You have to pass through all the numbers between 48 and 49. Okay, that's how you determine if it's continuous or discrete. Okay, same thing with age. You don't jump from 5 years old to 6 years old. You pass through all the time between 5 and 6 years old, even though you don't actually claim those, like state those days. Still there. Okay. All right. Now the harder ones. So we've broken the data down into two different pieces. We've stated it's either qualitative or quantitative, correct? Okay. The quality of data, I can't stand the way they actually, like how the people who created this, not this book in general, I do not understand why they called it this way. The quality of data is referred to as the level of measurement. Because we use these terms way different today than they probably did back then. So once we've determined if it's qualitative or quantitative, we can split that data into two different types. Okay. Quantitative or qualitative data, so those are the ones that are non-numeric that we cannot do math with, are either nominal or ordinal. Okay, so those are qualitative. Interval and ratio are quantitative. It sucks just because the words are so close together. Okay.
Oh,
I can go back. That's fine.
please, thank
That's
you.
fine. It's not a problem. So the first ones we're going to look at are nominal and ordinal because those are qualitative levels. Now, every time we look at these, it can be multiple. So levels of measurement means that it literally builds on the stuff before. Okay. So nominal is the base, and then ordinal is more specific, interval is even more specific, and ratio is even more specific on top of it. All right. So that's one of that way levels kind of make sense. We good? Okay. You are totally fine.
Okay.
All right. Nominal is just data that possesses some characteristics. Okay. So this is the very basic level. Okay. So nominal just means it possesses some characteristics. Things that typically fall in here is anything that's not a number. Okay.
Anything but a number?
No, anything that is, so a number could possibly be in here, but anything that is not a number is guaranteed to be in here. Okay. So the color of your eyes is nominal. Your name, nominal. Your occupation, nominal. Because none of those are numbers. So if it's not a number, it is guaranteed to be nominal. Okay? Straight off, it's nominal. There are some things that are numbers that are nominal, though. Your phone number is nominal. Okay? Social security number is nominal. Okay? So those are things that are nominal. It'll make more sense once I tell you what ordinal is on why, like, your phone number and those things are nominal. Ordinal is one step above. The root word for ordinal, order. It is things that you can put in order. Okay? So, for example, your phone number, putting those in order doesn't make any difference. All right? Your street address, if I looked at the street number, putting those in order, that might make a difference because I can put those in order. So those would be an ordinal piece of data, not nominal. Okay, because I can put them in order. All right. Typically, the examples they give you a lot of times are things that are ranked. Right. So when you can rank things, that will automatically give it to you in terms of an ordinal level. So one of the questions that we did before was the rankings of the 3 books on the New York Times bestseller list, right? We said that was qualitative. We said it was neither discrete nor continuous. That one would be ordinal because I could rank those books. Okay. I can put the book with the highest rating on top, the second and down. I can put them in order, and that order means something. So that is what makes it ordinal and not just nominal. Okay? You see the difference between those two? So the example where we did the list of county codes and your phone numbers, that's nominal. The Rankins the 3 book, that's ordinal.
Wait, what?
The telephone number piece, that's nominal. Because putting those in order wouldn't make any sense. I can put them in order, but the order doesn't mean anything. Okay, like I could put everybody's phone numbers in here in numerical order, but it wouldn't mean anything. If I took your street addresses and put them in numerical order, like if you were all living on one street, put them in numerical order, that would mean something because that's not where your houses are. Okay, that has some kind of order to it. The rankings of the 3 books, putting them in order means something. I would get the best book, I'd get the lower book and stuff like that. Okay.
What about the 4 females? Or
We haven't gotten to that one yet because that was qualitative data or quantitative data, not qualitative data. We haven't talked about quantitative data yet. So we haven't gotten there yet. All right, so we're good with nominal and ordinal for the most part. We're going to do a bunch of examples in a little bit, so don't freak out. All right, now when we're looking at quantitative data means I can do some math with it. We have 2 levels of math. Interval means that it can be ordered. So notice how now it's still ordinal basically, but we can do more stuff to it. So interval means I can put it in order. However, I also can subtract them. So if I subtracted the 2 pieces, that would mean something. Okay. So if we look at the rankings or the ratings for those 3 books, if I took the rating of 5 stars and subtracted the rating of 3 stars and got 2 stars, would that mean anything in terms? But would that mean anything in terms of the ratings of the books? No. Okay, so that is why that stays as ordinal and it doesn't move up to the level of interval because subtracting those wouldn't mean anything. All right. However, if we look at, say, your temperature, like your body temperature, and we subtracted those, that could have some meaning, right? So your body temperature would be interval. I can put them in order, and I can subtract them. And that subtraction would have some meaning. All right? And if we look at compared to like normal body temperature, we can determine sickness and stuff like that based on it. So subtracting them has a meaning to it. That's what rises it to the level of interval, because again, remember, quantitative data I can do math with, and in this stage, I can do subtraction with it.
Can you do addition to that one?
You can. Sometimes it means something, sometimes it doesn't, depending on the data. The one thing that has to work with this is the difference. Because intervals means I'm putting things in order and the space between them has some meaning, which is where the subtraction comes into play.
Because like, what if you were doing like a patient's temperature?
Yeah.
The temperature does not go down, it goes up. Would that be interval?
Right, but I'm still subtracting. I'm going to subtract their temperature for the one temperature from the other temperature to see the difference. So you're still subtracting.
Okay.
And if it went down, you'd still subtract, you just get a negative number, which is still a value information. Okay. Ratio, top level of measurement. Ratio is similar to interval, except I can do a lot more stuff with it. I can divide it, we can add it, we can find averages, those type of things. So a lot of times it says it has a meaningful 0 value. That can be extremely confusing. So the easiest way to look at it if it's ratio is, if I divided it, would that have meaning? So if I took the heights of those 48 females and took a couple of them and divided it, I could say one female is twice as tall as the other female. And that would have meaning. Okay? So that would be considered ratio. So if you think of ratio, if remember back from middle school and high school and stuff like that, when we were talking about ratios, it was fractions, it was division. So if you can take 2 of those numbers and divide them and it has some meaning, that's what it's ratio data. Okay, so those heights of those 48 females would be an interval. I could order them, I could subtract them, that makes sense. But it's one step above that because dividing them also gives me information that I can use. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay. See if I can find another one real quick, and then I'll go on to some other stuff. All right. The number of days traveled last month by 100 randomly selected employees. Qualitative or quantitative? Quantitative. Why? Yeah, I can do some calculations with this, right? All right. So this is. So it's quantitative. Okay. So is it, so we know it's quantitative, that means it can be discrete or continuous. Is this discrete or continuous? Why?
Because it actually goes through the days, doesn't come to.
So this is where like you can't have hard and fast rules on certain things. Like you can't automatically say all time is continuous. Time is continuous in general. It depends on how the data is being collected. If I'm looking at the number of days traveled last month by 100 employees, I'm probably not going to say 2.34 days. I'm probably going to say 2 days, or if they traveled a part of another day, they traveled 3 days. Okay. So in this case, this would be discrete. Okay. Because I'm not going to put down the exact, they traveled that day. It didn't matter if they traveled 5 minutes or 3 hours, they traveled. Okay. So in this case, this is discrete. I apologize ahead of time. I am a math teacher, not an English teacher. I am horrible with spelling. So if you see spelling errors on the board, that's why. As long as you can understand what I wrote, we're good. All right. So we've determined that this is discrete. Now we know it is quantitative. That means it has to be which one of the two? It has to be two. It could only be two different options, right? What are the two options? Interval or ratio. Okay, those are the only two options it can be. We know it cannot be nominal or ordinal because it is not qualitative data. Okay, so we've eliminated half those options already. All right, so is it interval or ratio? Remember, it can be both. What is the highest level it can be? So subtracting them, absolutely, right? I can definitely subtract them, and that gives me some meaning. Can I say somebody traveled twice as many days as another person?
Yeah.
If I can say that, it is ratio.
But why wouldn't it be interval?
No, it is. Remember, the concept is levels, right? So it's like a pyramid. Interval stage 3, ratio stage 4. Stage 4 includes everything below it. So because it's ratio, it also means that it's interval, ordinal, and anything in ratio I can put in order. So that would mean it's also ordinal, but I don't have to write that. You're only putting the highest level of measurement. Okay? Everything in ratio, I can put in order. Everything in ratio, I can subtract and find the difference. Okay? Everything in ratio, it's even nominal. It's like that's the levels of order. Okay? So you got to think about it like a pyramid. You're telling me the highest level. So in this case, the highest level that this could be is ratio. So we would say it's a ratio data point.
No wonder you get things wrong on the test.
Correct. Because you have to, it wants the highest. This is why I'm going through this. So it wants the highest level of it, not where it would just, where you think it would fall. Okay. So if we couldn't say that it was twice as much, then it would fall in interval and we'd be done. But you have to look at the levels of measurement like a pyramid, like a step. What's the highest step that I could possibly go to? All right, let's do another one. All right, qualitative or quantitative?
Quantitative.
This is quantitative. Discrete or continuous?
Mhm.
Continuous. So we know it's either interval or ratio, right? Why?
Because it can, like, you can do everything underneath that. I would think, like, you can do
You can say
the,
it was twice as cold as it is.
You're adding more information in. Or in this does it say cold or hot? But it doesn't say cold or hot. Interval is the only one that makes sense in this one. So I'm telling you this is why I said before there's no hard and fast rules for these. Like there's a way I could easily be swayed and say this is ratio. I am telling you it's interval because that's what Hawks wants you to put in their answer on the actual quizzes and stuff that you have to do. So if you put ratio, it's going to mark it wrong and you're going to get frustrated. Okay. Like I said, I could honestly see, but that's the reason behind it. Because if I was to say, I'd say it's twice as hot or twice as cold. I'd be adding information and it's not actually already given the problem. So just based on temperature, I can find out intervals. I can say the temperature difference between two places is 10 degrees. And I'm not adding information into the problem. Okay. So this is interval. Sometimes you have to give the program what they want, otherwise you get it wrong and frustrated. Okay. Right. So this is why this is literally one of the problems from like it might not be the exact same numbers, it might be slightly different because they randomize them, but I'm literally looking at it, student homework assignments, and I'm pulling questions directly from them. So all right. Let's do another one. All right, qualitative or quantitative? Why? He's asking about quality. It's good. Not a good reason to say qualitative though. Right. There's no calculations that would make any sense. All right. Is it discrete, continuous, or neither? It is neither, because this will never be like personally, that question I would never ask. They're asking it in the program. That's why I'm asking you that question now. So since we know it's qualitative, that means it is one of two options, right? It is nominal or it is ordinal. Why? Yeah, I could put these in order. So this is ordinal. So one of those things, because it gave numbers, don't get confused with the numbers. It's just like star ratings. You can have like you can physically put 5 stars. You can say 5 stars. It means the same thing. So don't automatically assume, oh, there's numbers. That has to be quantitative. That's the thing. Don't automatically assume that numbers have to be quantitative. You can have numbers that are qualitative. All right. That's one of the big things when you're looking at this. All right. One more.
qualitative.
All right. So qualitative or quantitative? Why?
Because you can't measure it. There's nothing.
Okay, this is qualitative. Good. So that means it's neither. I'm not even going to ask the question. All right. Nominal or ordinal? Why?
You know, there's numbers, putting them in order to.
Good. So in this one, below average, average, above average, good to excellent. If you ignore the numbers, I can still order those, right? Even though there's a 1, 2, 3, and 4 in front of those colors, red isn't 1, blue isn't 2. Like they're putting them there just because it's like multiple choice. Okay. So red, blue, green, and orange, putting them in order would mean nothing. All right. So in this case, this is nominal. So don't get confused because there's numbers. There. Oh, I can put them in order because there's numbers. No. This is nominal. All right. I can delete that slide. All right. Let's look at, let's not do that one. I want to do this one. All right. Read this wonderful little paragraph, which you're going to write down. I want you to write down the variables. There's multiple of them. For each variable, you want to write down if it is qualitative or quantitative, and then what level of measurement it is. So is it nominal, ordinal, interval, or ratio? So write down each variable, qualitative or quantitative, and then nominal, interval, or nominal, interval, nominal, ordinal, interval, ratio. Okay? Step 1, write down the variables. What are the things they're asking for? What are the information they're asking for, or that they're collecting? That's the variables. So write that down first. And there are 6 different things they're asking this one, so you can know if you have them all. All right. Okay, I can give you a minute, no problem. I can give you a couple more minutes, not a big deal.
So you already have the answers. Give us a minute.
I already did it with one of my other classes today. So you're better than the answers. I have students' answers. All right. What's one of the variables? Qualitative or quantitative? Discrete or continuous? Continuous. Interval or ratio? This is ratio. I can divide heights to determine differences. Wait. Does everybody understand what the lettering means that I'm writing? Okay. I just didn't feel like writing out every single letter. Quantitative, I have to write out a little bit more than I can't just put a Q. All right. Continuous or discrete? Interval or ratio? Is also a ratio. Good. What's the next variable? What's the variable? The state. Quality. We don't have to worry about the continuous or discrete. Now, is it interval or sorry? Is it ordinal or nominal? Nominal. Putting them in order wouldn't make much difference.
The
Yes.
state is what?
Qualitative.
Yeah.
And it's nominal. Putting the states in order doesn't really mean anything. I can put them alphabetical. I can put them by the time they turn the union.
Either and then.
Right, because yeah,
Okay.
this one's not going to ask you that second piece. In this case, it's neither because it's not discrete or continuous.
Okay.
So, what's the next one? Occupation of father. What's type? Okay. Nominal or ordinal? Nominal. What's the next one? Income. Qualitative or quantitative? Quantitative. Continuous or discrete? That's continuous. So there's actually there's like a huge debate, even in the statistic community, if money is discrete or continuous, because technically you can only go down to like the nearest cent. I fall on the level of continuous, and actually Hawks does too, so it's continuous. Is it interval or ratio? You can divide incomes. So, like, you think about incomes, you talk about like the 1%, the 10%, like those, you could definitely have some income, like do division and get them. So that'd be ratio. One more type. The home residence. I'll put residence. Qualitative or quantitative? Qualitative. Nominal or ordinal? We had some debate in the last class if that could have been ordinal because you can rank like city, town, rural. But in this case, they wouldn't make much difference in terms of what they're talking about. So I would say that's nominal. All right, good. Anybody's find any issues with this survey or this report that they did?
This,
would you
this
use
paragraph
the-
report?
Yeah.
What would you use interval?
So interval would be when that extra piece, like, so a lot of data normally falls into ratio. Intervals where you can't divide it wouldn't make sense to divide it. So like when we're talking about that temperature piece there, like dividing it really wouldn't make much sense. Right, because it's that piece there. So a lot of them typically do fall into ratio. Intervals a little rare. Nominal is a lot more common for qualitative than ordinal is, because there's a lot more types of data that would fall into that situation. So that's really the difference in there.
Unless it's like very specific.
Yeah. It's going to probably be ratio. Yeah. What was the issue with the survey or the report?
that they're studying the nutritional status of all Americans, but they're up there focusing on the one.
Yeah, you're the first one who've actually said that one. Yes. So if we're looking at like the population, so they were studying, the population is mid-19th century Americans. And they were looking at changes in antebellum America, which is basically the time before, during, and after, right after the Civil War. But they were looking at the heights and weights of West Point cadets, which is literally the like cream of the crop in the world, in the United States. So yeah, that actually, like, yep, that's one big one. Normally people come up and goes, there's no, why didn't they ask the occupation of the mother? Because at that point,
Stay at home mother.
right, if you were a mother, you were at home. You didn't work. And if you were working, you weren't a mother. You were a single, you were a single woman, either in nursing or in teaching at that point. So
Your kid
yeah,
wants to go to West Point.
no, if you had a kid, that was a whole other issue. And you were they were definitely not going to West Point. So when you're looking at these type of studies and stuff like that, sometimes you have to look at where they are. And like, I bring this up, it's like looking at like biases and stuff like that too, but it's like looking at when they're talking about, because that actually does have a major impact on it. We are quick to jump on people saying, oh, I didn't do, well, we're talking about 200 years ago. It's like it was a different world 200 years ago. It's like those are some of the types of things that you want to look at and understand. Yeah, they do all have parents. They might not be alive, but they definitely have parents. And at this point in time, the people who are going to West Point were typically your elites. The random slum person is not going to West Point at this point. Even if they had the ability to do it, they didn't have the opportunity to do it. Even today, it's hard to get into the academies. You have to have a congressional appointment. Your congressman or senator has to actually give you a letter saying you can go there, which is not easy to do unless you have some kind of connections. So even now, it is very hard to get into West Point, Annapolis, the Air Force Academy, and the Coast Guard Academy. Those are the 4 military academies. There is no Marine Academy because the Marines are part of the Navy. So, and there's no Space Force Academy yet. They're part of the Air Force. All right, good. We are done with 2-3 or 2-2. Let's look at 2-3. 2-3 is actually pretty easy. All right. 2.3 starts our look at graphs and looking at some kind of data. There's 2 types of data that we're talking about in 2.3. The first one is known as a time series. A time series looks at a specific piece of data over a range of time. So the example that I put up on the board from the book was the American League batting champions batting average from 1968 through 2018. So this is looking at that one specific piece of information, batting average, over a bunch of time. Okay, that's what it's looking at. You can see pieces of data like this and looking at in terms of, and actually, I'll put some up in a few minutes, but so that's what a time series is. A lot of times you'll see these things, they'll be typically called longitudinal studies, where I'll be looking at a group of people and looking at something about their health over time and measuring their either heights, weights, whatever. If you're tracking your kid's height and weight from when they were born until when they turn 18, even if you're doing a little marks on the walls, that's a time series. You don't necessarily have to graph it to become a time series. The data, by definition, is a time series. Okay, does that make sense? All right. Cross-sectional data. Cross-sectional data is where we look at one specific time or one specific instance, we're looking at information about a variety of different things within that time. So in this example, they gave life expectancy at birth in 2015, and then they gave you a bunch of different countries and the life expectancy. So this is a cross-sectional data because we're looking at just one specific time. and we're looking at a bunch of different pieces of data within that time period.
Sierra Leone is- oof,
Well,
I know.
it's not a very hospitable place. So, and we looked at, remember last class, we were talking about the US back in the early 1900s, or was 1903, the average life expectancy was 46. So it's like industrialization really helps improve life expectancy. All right. Let's look at some graphs. Or let's look at some data charts. Because graphs are easy. The data charts are a little more complicated. Cross-sectional or time series. Why?
A year goes up every year.
Good. We're looking at U.S. fuel exports over the years. Time series or cross-sectional? Why?
It was recorded around that, during that time.
What was recorded during that time?
The employment rates in 19, the unemployment rates.
Okay.
Are all recorded in 2015. It was just like the inhabitable or the habitable.
But
It's just
over
instead of
different
places,
months.
it's a month.
But does the months make a difference? Yes. Months make a huge difference. Months are time. So the only difference between these two graphs is this was done every year and this was done every month.
So they're both.
These are both time series. Okay. Don't get stuck in the fact that it has to be a year. A month is still time. Okay. If I looked at a chart of January and put the average temperature every single day for the month, the days from 1 through 31, that would still be a time series, not cross-sectional data. Still doesn't matter. So whenever you're looking at a specific piece of data at different time periods, time series.
Still looking at unemployment.
Right. It's still looking at U.S. unemployment rates during each of these months. The reason this one was confusing is a lot of times you think, oh, it's words. And you're associating that with the countries and stuff that you saw in the other one. Just because it's words, these months are time. So that's a time series. Time series or cross-sectional? Cross-sectional. Because if you look at this one, right, it is looking at gas prices in September of 2015 and then the areas. Okay, but it was looking at the gas prices at the exact same time for all those areas. So that is cross-sectional data. Time series or cross-sectional? Time series. Good. Time series or cross-sectional? Why?
All in 2013.
It's all in 2013. And just because it's numbers doesn't mean it's time. Those are categories. Those are no different than saying states. Right? These are just categories. All right.
So it is cross-sectional.
This is cross-sectional, yes. Time series or cross-sectional? This is a time series. We're looking at the number of days for the given temperatures. So we're looking at temperature over a specific number of days. So that is a time series. Time series, going over time. That make sense? Good, we're done.
That's discrete.
The days and temperatures would be discrete. The days at that temperature would be discrete. The stock price in the US, that would be continuous. So, because the temperatures, if it's that temperature in a day, it doesn't matter if it's there for 5 minutes or an hour, it's still that temperature. So, and the stock prices as it's going down, even though they're very specific points, it doesn't go from $26 to $22 instantly. It goes from 26 to 22. So, although technically the stock prices it could, because it's based on what it's sold at, just highly unlikely. So, all right. We're done for the day. Yes, that's it. If you are not in Hawks yet, do not leave until you get signed into Hawks. Yeah, it's in Hawks. Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, the chapter 2 stuff wasn't due till the 15th. But even if it shows up as late, you're fine. You can still do it. It'll say it's late, but it still gives you the points for it because I don't have any penalty for being late. You too.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
You too. Do you have a better understanding of qualitative and quantitative now?
Oh, yeah.
You- Once you start doing it,
Tutoring tomorrow.
okay. But again, once you start doing it,
Thank you.
so you too. So when you go to tutoring, log into Hawks and have them work with the lesson with you.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah. Just what I would suggest. So you have two. When you log in, you have the certify and then the pre-certify. Do the pre-certify with them. Don't do the certify with them.
Well, the pre-certified is, the certified is the test.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, no.
So, I'm just honestly in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. But what I'm saying for you, like I would practice with that, and then you can try it and see if you actually understand it. So,
It's just like the meetings and stuff. is that I
You too.
don't-
they're also very close in terms of words, so it makes it really hard to go like to separate it. Right, separate it in your brain. So,
I even asked Maria, my advisor, well, not my advisor, but, today. I have to take it to fix.
yep, and you'll be fine.